Well, the pandemic has altered the ways that many global financial hubs operate, with remote work stretching the boundaries of cities. For more on the rise of so-called meta cities, let's bring in Richard Florida. He's the founder of the Creative Class Group and a professor at the University of Toronto School of Cities and Rotman School of Management. Richard, thanks so much for jumping on with us this afternoon.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jacqueline.
So you've been talking about meta cities recently, also superstar cities. Can you give us a bit of a breakdown as to, what makes a meta city?
Well, I think, you talked about it in your little intro about the shift to remote work and these digital technologies. We did this study with BCG, the big consulting firm that has access to all sorts of incredible data on cities. What we did was look at data on the flow of talent between cities. And what we found, for all of human history before us, like the whole time orbit on Earth, cities were physical artifacts. They were basically commuter sheds. As far as the technology, if it was a horse and carriage, a streetcar, a car, that was your labor shed. That was what a city was. And in fact, the definition of a city or an urban settlement or a metropolitan area is a commuting shed. What we found out, and this isn't rocket science, is that the pandemic allows cities to expand in a new way. It's not only a physical cluster, but it has a digital set of connections to other cities. So that's what we call the meta city, a physical cluster plus digital connections. And we looked at, the 50 largest cities in the world, London, New York, Toronto, on and on, Dubai, Abu Dhabi. How are they connected to one another digitally through the flows of talent? What we found is quite remarkable. The two number 1 and 2 global cities, obvious to everybody, London and New York, great centers of economic activity, great financial centers, great global cities, super connected to all the other global cities. The next group of cities was shocking. It wasn't Toronto. It wasn't Hong Kong. It wasn't Paris. It wasn't Berlin. It wasn't Frankfurt. It was Dubai and Singapore, and then Los Angeles, and then Paris. And in fact, Toronto was in the third group, right below that second tier. We call them the superstar cities. The second tier is the real talent hubs, and the third tier is like the regional centers. But yeah, what this suggests to us is that there's a new kind of city emerging, which isn't just a great city to live and work in, which Toronto is. Toronto's a great city to live and work in. It's a great city to go to connect in, to do business meetings, and to have fun. And that's the only way we could explain the fact that Dubai and Singapore, great airports, great hospitality, great hotels, great stuff to do, great nightlife, we're in that second category. And again, right behind New York and London and ahead of Paris, Los Angeles, and Berlin.
Oh, I have so many questions, Richard. Okay, so when you're talking about being so connected, digitally connected, what does that mean for the physical city? When you're thinking, maybe Toronto, but maybe we need to talk about New York because it's at the top of that list. What is left in the physical city in New York? What is the vibe like there even?
Yeah, New York is back full on. So's London, full on. Toronto's still struggling. San Francisco's still struggling. We can go down the list. I think what it means is that in the past, we looked at cities as places to live and work. They were physical artifacts. You lived in a suburb, or you lived in a nice urban neighborhood. You took a subway or a car to work. And that was true of New York. That was true of London. That was true of Toronto. Now with this connectivity, cities have to be because the remote workers are spread out. They have to be places people want to come to connect to one another. That's why I say it's no longer a central business district. What makes a great city today is a central connectivity district. It's a place local people and global people come to connect. So it's not just a place to live and work. It's a place to connect and play. And I think where Toronto is lagging, great city to live in, expensive, but a great city to live in and raise kids, even for young people, good city to work in, not quite as fun. And I think that's what's so interesting. Not the kind of place that people are dying to come, to connect, to go to a convention, to go to a business meeting. And that's what New York and London do. That's what Dubai and Singapore are doing. And I think it just means we have to recalibrate ourselves.
Yeah, so what could a city like Toronto do to sort of turn up the volume on the fun aspect of it? Is it, a particular entertainment attractions that would need to be here all the time, or like you said, like a convention attracting that kind of thing to the city, but they'd still need to enjoy being here.
So we know this, and the data are clear. Here's the thing. And this is a study of the U.S., the 26 largest downtowns. They didn't do Toronto because it's outside the U.S., but here it is. If you take workers, commuter workers, they're about 25% of the people who go downtown. You take residents, 10, 11, 12%. Visitors make up 60% of the people who go to the downtown. Wow. And the city in the U.S. that's recovered the most, I mean, New York's recovered, is Nashville. Nashville is the place with the music, with the people want to go there, conventions, their local restaurant scene. So I think two things. Toronto has become a lot, look, I'm not from Toronto, but I've been coming to Toronto for 40 years. It's a lot more fun now than it was 40 years ago, even 20 years ago. But there's an arms race for fun. And so I think Toronto's always been kind of a conservative. When I say small C conservative, it's not been a big fun town, but it's gotten a lot better. I think thinking about this long and hard, because the downtown is not going to rebound with workers. We have to get more residents and convert some of those buildings. But I think the real key to the whole thing is the waterfront. Toronto now, the Don was just reconnected, remade. The water is now ready for development. We have a lot of proposals for good development. I think if you look at London, if you look at New York, if you look at Singapore, if you look at Dubai, and I can go on and on, Sydney, their waterfronts are incredible. Our waterfront is poised to be incredible, but I think the future of our city is the downtown and then that adjacent waterfront. So,
Richard, just quickly, what's at risk for a city like Toronto, but maybe others that are lower on that list of yours, if they don't get the sort of balance of things right in being that interconnected hub, but then also being an attractive place for people to come to, largely visitors. I didn't realize that 60% being visitors to the city. That's a big one.
I think Toronto is at real risk. I think it's almost existential now. If you think about housing affordability, traffic congestion, car theft and rising crime, and the consternation that is causing, people feeling scared. Never. I've lived in Toronto for 15 years. People never felt scared before. Now people tell me all the time, I'm nervous. I think add to that the lack of this connectivity. Conventions are down. Business travel is down. International travel is down. International visitation is down. I think we've got to figure out what we're going to be and how we're going to address this. And I don't think we're doing that. I think we're sitting on our hands. And we look inward. One of the things that troubles me a lot, and it's a small sample. I teach at the Rotman School. You mentioned that.
Yep.
When I started at the Rotman School, 98% of our kids wanted to stay in Toronto. And those kids come from all over the world. They're from Canada, they're from the United States, they're from the Middle East, they're from Europe, they're from Latin America. Now it's down to a much smaller percentage. We attract immigrants from all over the world, but now for the first time, people are saying, I'm not so sure. Maybe I want to move somewhere else. Maybe I want to go somewhere else in Canada. Maybe Toronto's too expensive. Maybe I could have more fun elsewhere. So I think now is the time for Toronto, all hands on deck, a real rethink about what we want to be as a global city. And it's not enough. Look, I think Toronto is one of the great, I live there with my family. It's one of the greatest places in the world to live and work. That's necessary, but not sufficient. We've got to be a great place to connect, a great place to visit, a great place to have fun, a great place to do business conferences, international travel. We can get there, but we got to put our minds to it.